Hello and welcome to the Crimewatch Roadshow. For the whole of June, you have been helping us solve crime from all around the UK. Since we came on air, we have had over 1,500 calls and made progress on many of the cases that we featured.
Yeah, so far, 4 people have handed themselves in after spotting themselves on the programme. Another 4 are now in prison and another 5 have been arrested as a result of your calls.
We'll have more details later. Now, on today's show, we're after the cat burglars who mysteriously break in and steal thousands of pounds worth of valuables in the dead of night.
Picture the scene. You wake up in the morning and you sense that someone has been in your house, and yet there's no sign of anyone being there, apart from the fact thousands of pounds worth of precious possessions have disappeared. You realise you've been burgled, but how they got in is a mystery.
When we woke up in the morning, I knew something was wrong.
It's horrible to think that someone has come into your house when you're at your most vulnerable, really, when you're asleep.
I have to have my children safe, and if I don't feel safe, I can't make them safe.
Basingstoke has been hit by a spate of burglaries. No nonsense, no mess. The thieves were in and out as their victims lay sleeping upstairs. There are no clues. It's a mystery how they broke in.
We've lived in this house for 30 years, and I was a librarian, and I recently retired, and Colin has recently retired as well.
On the 28th of April, Anne and Colin returned home from a day trip to Wales, exhausted.
When we got back from Wales, we were pretty tired. I was very tired. So I dumped my handbag in the kitchen, which I normally put it, and went up to bed.
That night, the Stokers weren't alone. But it wasn't until the next morning that they would realise someone had been in their house as they were sleeping.
When I woke in the morning, I was disturbed by the cat. And the cat's never normally in our bedroom, so I knew something was not right. So I came downstairs here and noticed that the keys were missing from the hook in the kitchen. And also, my car and Anne's car had been stolen from our drive.
That night, £30,000 of the Stokers' possessions were stolen, including a laptop, their sat-nav, and even their 2 cars. A silver BMW and a black Golf GTI.
It's horrible to think that someone has come into your house when you're at your most vulnerable, really, when you're asleep.
Just 2 weeks later, 5 miles away, Tina and Martin and their 2 young children were also about to become victims of late-night visitors. But for them, what they were to lose was even more precious. Martin is a Transport for London worker and Tina is a nursery nurse. They've been saving and planning for their dream wedding for 10 months.
We managed to get the church first time, managed to get the venue, got them dressed first time, the children's outfits first time. Everything was just coming along nicely for a dream wedding.
With the big day coming up, they'd finally secured one of the most important aspects of getting married, the rings.
We spent quite a long time looking for the rings, went to numerous jewellers and everything because the size of Martin had to be specially made. We finally found the venue to do it, which again took some time to get the exact ring, the exact size with the exact engraving.
It was a Saturday night after a busy week for Tina and her husband-to-be, Martin.
And we'd come home, done everything as we usually do, and that you put your money, your keys in the same place that you have done every other night. Felt absolutely shattered and went up to bed, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, that was basically it. I was out for the count. I come down on the Sunday morning and I noticed that the money box and the phone wasn't there.
As soon as I entered the room, I could just, woman's instinct, tell that somebody had been in here just by looking. At first, I said, "Oh, don't be silly." And then when we realised exactly what's gone, I said, a horrible feeling come across me and said, "We have been broke into."
Both these couples' houses were targeted whilst they slept. A stealth-like operation with no signs of false entry.
No windows are smashed. They've gained entry somehow, because just looking around, we couldn't see how or work out how.
It makes you feel very anxious, very vulnerable, really, that when you're in your own home, people could get in quite easily.
Later, we'll reveal just what happened that night, and we're also joined by Master Locksmith Dave Stokes, and he's here with his guide to the gadgets and locks you need on your front door to protect you and your home against thieves.
Coming up this morning, the 20-year-old woman sexually assaulted and then robbed in her own home. We have got his face. Here it is. The police have his DNA. All we need now is a name.
And we're hoping you recognise some of this lot, all wanted by police forces around the UK. If you see anything this morning you can help with, please pick up the phone, 08000 468 999.
Or you can also text us 63399, text CW, a space, and then your message. And don't forget to leave the space or your message will not get through to us.
Now, here's our daily dose of criminals, all caught on camera. This lady has just finished shopping at Sainsbury's Hall Lane, Chingford. She's being followed by this bloke. As she gets into her car, he jumps in too. He tells her to drive to a cash machine in Ilford and demands £300 cash. At this point, he's holding a knife with a serrated edge. She's 4 months pregnant and scared. How low can you get? The victim thinks he may be Middle Eastern with an Arabic accent. We need to withdraw him from society. Let's find him. We're in a pizza parlour in Highgate, North London, back in March. This bloke isn't the waiter. He's a thief after the dough. Lots of it. He fleeces a till of £500 and shines his torch looking for more. Sorry, mate, you've taken it all. Know who he is? We want to find him. It's October and we're at a Goldsmiths Jewellers in Darlington. A male walks in and asks to see a couple of diamond rings from the window display. He tries both rings on for size, picking his nose whilst choosing which one to run off with. And there he goes. He's in his early 20s or 30s, heavy set, with short shaven blonde hair, visible scars on the back of his head, and talks with a Scouse accent. If you've seen him or the ring, give us a ring. This is no ordinary criminal. This is an M&S criminal at a BP garage in Kent. It's October and he's come to do the weekly shop for free. He wanders around the aisles picking the best of what's on offer and places them straight into his rucksack. Don't tell me there were no baskets. He finishes and queues to pay for the goods, thinks better of it and leaves. If he was cooking for you that night, on the cheap, we need to hear from you. Do you recognise anyone? Call us, the numbers are on your screen now. And actually, we've just had a call on those vintage cars we showed you earlier in the week that were torched and completely ruined down in Eastleigh. We've had a name and address suggested for the person believed responsible for that, which is sounding excellent.
Let's go back now to Basingstoke, where police are on the hunt for the cat burglars who leave no trace of how they got in. In Basingstoke, 2 burglaries have one thing in common. There was no sign of how they broke in.
I noticed that the keys were missing from the hook in the kitchen, and also my car and Anne's car had been stolen from our drive.
No windows are smashed. They've gained entry somehow, and that because just looking around, we couldn't see how or work out how.
Tina and Martin, due to marry in 6 weeks, lost something extremely precious that night that could ruin what was meant to be the happiest day of their lives, their wedding rings.
We saved up really hard for the rings. It's taken a lot of time and searching around to find the ideal ring, and it's cost a lot, and it's just devastating for it to be taken away.
And for Colin and Anne Stoker, £30,000 worth of valuables were stolen, including their 2 cars.
Well, we've worked hard all our lives and we're enjoying our retirement, and it really does hurt when people come into your house and in the middle of the night and steal some of your prized possessions, particularly my car, which I love to enjoy.
The theft of the vehicles was to reveal key information about the type of people behind these crimes. They weren't after the cars for the money. They had other plans. Joyriding. Two weeks later, Colin's car was discovered just 15 miles away in this condition. They'd not only dumped it, they'd set fire to it.
We found Mr Stoker's car burnt out about 20 miles from here in a place called Thatcham. Mrs Stoker's Golf was in the same location. That wasn't burnt out, and we recovered that fully intact with a laptop computer in the back. This tells us that people who stole these cars were joyriders and were taking them just for the thrill.
So just how did they get in?
Unfortunately, there have been many reported cases of burglaries like this across Basingstoke. The burglars have been getting into the houses using a Z-bar like this.
It's simply a length of metal piping bent into the shape of a Z. It's designed to slip in through the letterbox and open the door from the inside. Worryingly, it's just as easy as that.
It's so easy for them to get through the letterbox to open your door. And I hadn't realised that. I really hadn't realised how easy it is to get in to your house when you're in the house, when you're actually inside.
If you know who these cat burglars are, do call us. The numbers are there on your screen right now.
And with us now in the studio is Dave Stokes, expert locksmith from the Master Locksmiths Association. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
Now, you've broken into a fair few houses yourself, but with the owner's permission, I might add. And I think we can even see some footage of you in action to show us just how easy it can be when you know how.
Yes.
We're going to see this now. This is you, Dave, isn't it, with a little device in your hand called a Z-bar. And literally, within seconds, you're going to go in through this locked door. Now, you're showing me this is a locked door from the outside, and that was probably 5 seconds at most, and you're in.
That's right.
You're just demonstrating how easy this can be, isn't it? And you really want people to tighten up their security.
Yes, they should make great efforts to do more for their security on their houses, and we've got a few products to show them here this morning.
Now, what you've done there, obviously, you went through the letterbox. You used no force, no brute force to go in. You went through the letterbox, and you've got a couple of devices here which could protect that thing happening. So talk us through what we've got here.
We've got here the cowling, just a simple cowl that you screw on the back of the door to stop anything from going in, and makes that secure.
So this would go on the back of the door, so letters would come in.
Letterbox can come in, and
but obviously you wouldn't be able to fit that device or something similar.
This won't go through the letterbox.
And roughly what we're talking here, Dave?
£25, something like that.
If that, yeah. So a very cheap way of preventing that. You've also got a slightly more high-tech version, but these I know from experience because we used to use these in the police. Tell us what these are.
Well, this is, you can secure the letterbox by closing the fat and locking it off, so you can't get anything in the letterbox. But when you do want to receive your mail, you can leave this open, the mail can go in, you can collect it. This is also good for a door that fits flush against the wall. When you open the door and it fits flush, it gives you that room, and it's also fire retardant as well.
That's the most important part, because this thick bag here is fire retardant. That's why we used to use them in the police for victims.
Yep.
And what happens if anyone was to put anything through, like a firework, for example, this will stop it
from going any further,
very
and you can get a fire
and these again are not particularly expensive either, are they?
Well, they're about £70. But they're well worth it.
Absolutely.
They're well worth it.
Yeah. Now, we've got a couple of devices here, slightly bigger, these long pieces here, which actually go onto the front door, don't they? And tell us what those are.
Well, at the moment, we've got UVPC, which is a multi-lock, which you should have for insurance purposes on your UVPC door, because it's that you're able to compress it, so these hooks hold the door together.
And what's the relevance of the multi-lock, Dave?
Because you've got three-point locking. It's three-point locking. And you should always lock your door inside and out. It's what I say. If a single dwelling, if it's a single family dwelling, and secure a key somewhere where you can get it easily in case of fire, because there's always a risk of fire. But people think, I won't lock the door because I'm in. but you don't want to be.
Now
caught
these
with
white
them.
ones here. Tell us what these are.
These are for wooden doors.
Okay.
This is.
Should we just hold that up there so we can have a
Yeah,
look?
this is what's called a London bar, and this part goes round the keep of the night latch, and also when you've got a deadlock, it also keeps the frame.
And this here fits to
from
the door
breaking
or
out.
the frame. Which one does this fit to?
This is on the hinge side. That's
Yeah.
on the frame side of the lock side of the wooden door.
Now again-
Inside. This is for the frame side, the hinge side,
Mm-hmm.
which also you can fit hinge bolts to the door.
Yep.
And that will stop the door. Help
Again,
to stop
very
it from
cheap.
breaking out.
Now, a good
tubing out.
strong lock is really important, isn't it? I know we're short of time.
Well,
It's
we've got
important to say
this is a British standard lock. This one,
Yeah.
which locks on the inside
Yeah.
and conforms to British standard 3621, and that's about. They start from about 55, 60
But
pounds.
just before I know we're short of time. I've just got to show my personal favourite because how much does this device cost?
This is a fiver.
£5, and this here is an audible alarm, isn't it, Dave? So if the door
Audible.
was to open without your permission, it makes a racket, which we're not going to do now, but
No.
it's extremely loud because I've heard it in rehearsal. And this £5. So there you go, a fiver.
For windows as well. It works
Yeah,
on
windows,
windows as well.
doors, cupboards, anything, it can protect you there. So, Dave, fascinating stuff. Thank you very much. And if you want more details on Dave's advice, visit our website, bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch Roadshow.
Now, our daily lineup of most wanted faces. Face number 1, 23-year-old Sean DeValder is wanted by police for conspiracy to commit robbery against vehicles carrying cash for ATM machines. There's a £5,000 reward for information leading to his arrest and conviction. So if you have any information at all, do get dialing. Face number 2 is Stephen DeValder. He is the 26-year-old brother of Sean DeValder. And Lancashire police want to speak to him about some crimes too. If you've seen the brothers, do call. Face number 3, Neil Craig Rogers, is wanted in connection with a string of fraud offences at Gatwick Airport. He uses many aliases, the most recent being Daniel Thomas. If you've spotted him lately, please do give us a call. And number 4, 28-year-old Neil Cope is wanted by police for breaching a court order where he was due to appear for an assault charge. Cope is 5'7", stocky build, and has a Tasmanian devil cartoon tattoo on his left arm. If you know where they're hiding, call or text. The numbers are on your screen now.
And thanks to your calls to Crimewatch Roadshow, we've been able to give some crucial information to the police. Yesterday, we featured the case of a man who was seriously assaulted after leaving a pub in Bromley. Now, we asked for your help to name the man police believe is responsible and caught on CCTV. Following calls to the programme, police got the information they were after and a warrant has now been issued.
And on one of the cases that we featured last week, a distraction burglary by a gang at this corner shop in Heaton in Newcastle, where £4,000 worth of jewellery was stolen. Well, a man has been arrested in relation to this case and awaits charge. And police have also recovered a BMW that they believe was involved.
And a man wanted in connection with theft in Northumbria saw the show and handed himself in. Another man wanted for 5 separate warrants contacted police after a number of friends of him spotted him on the show as well.
And a woman also handed herself in after seeing herself on television. She's wanted in connection with a criminal damage offence.
We've also recovered that special microscope. Here it is, stolen from a brewery in South Shields. It was mysteriously returned to the owner minutes after our programme. Strange, that.
Now, the case of the 20-year-old woman sexually assaulted in her home in Lambeth in South London after a night out. DC Roy Hill joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
This 20-year-old woman, she's a student and she was out, night out with her friends, wasn't she?
That's correct, yes, she was.
Tiger.
It was Tiger. It was on the evening of the 19th of January, following through to the morning of the 20th of January. That was actually a Monday evening, was on the 19th. It was a student night only event that they were holding at that stage.
And this is the Tiger in Haymarket in central London.
That is correct,
just to be
yes.
clear about
It's in
this,
the Tiger at Haymarket, central London. She went there with some friends, with some flatmates of hers who were fellow students. And whilst she was there, she met a young man and went from where the main function was to one of the other bars, which was downstairs, as I understand it. She remembers meeting this young man. She remembers having a drink with him. And then, after that, doesn't remember anything else until the following morning at about 9:30 a.m. when she woke up. She was in her bed and she was clothed, although she found that her clothing was in disarray, it had been moved, and in particular her tights had been pulled down.
She'd been sexually assaulted,
And
basically.
it turned out she had been sexually assaulted, yes. As she began to wake up and come to, she realised then that her laptop computer, which contained all of her coursework, had been stolen. It was missing out of the room. And she also found that her Samsung phone, Samsung mobile phone and the camera had both been stolen as well.
And there was money missing too, wasn't there?
Yes, when she checked with her bank, she discovered that £250 had been withdrawn from her bank. And we have made inquiries, and we've found out that at approximately 3:30 in the morning of the 20th, her cash card was used at the Texaco service station in Albert Embankment.
But she has no recollection of this?
She has no recollection whatsoever of this.
So we don't know, do we know whether she was there at the time or not? Or we're assuming so?
We're assuming that this was on her route home with this young man who...
Now, you've got some very interesting CCTV of a man you want to talk to in connection with all of this. Let's have a look at the images now, because this is when she arrives back to her apartment, isn't it?
That's correct, yes. Now, as you see now, they're walking into the foyer of the flats where she lives, and they're going to the lift. Now, an interesting thing to note is that the young man is carrying a bag, a holdall. And
he's got a hand on her shoulder. I mean, it's almost like he's steadying her. But she says she didn't really drink that much.
She didn't really drink that much. He was steadying her to a degree, but not to a very large degree. She didn't appear to be under the influence of drink.
You think this is date rape, really, don't you?
It appears to be the case, yes, rather than drink. I mean, one thing you'll notice from the CCTV, as he went in, he was wearing a grey pullover.
Yeah, let's see those shots, again, the two shots, because you've got one of, there you are. So
That's
as
right.
he goes in, he's wearing
As he goes in, yeah, he's wearing the grey pullover. He remained in her flat for about 35 to 40 minutes. When he came out, he wasn't wearing that pullover. In fact, that was left behind, and that has been recovered. And as you can see, he's now got a black jacket on, or three-quarter length coat on, and he's still carrying the holdall. And again, if you notice very, very carefully at the holdall, you can just about see the laptop computer sticking out at the top, and in his hand he's carrying what could possibly be the phone or the camera.
Right. And you've got his DNA as well, haven't you?
We have. We've got a full DNA profile of this young man. We've got good CCTV images, as you've seen. All we need now is just his name.
So, I mean, it's very traumatic as well for the student. I mean, if this is date rape, and which is basically when somebody puts something into somebody's drink,
That's right, yes. It's been extremely traumatic for this young lady in two ways, really. First of all, she's had to cope with the fact that she's been sexually assaulted in this way. And the other thing she had to cope with is the fact that all of her coursework for the last year was on that laptop computer. So she's had to work really hard to catch up and get...
Yeah. And the man that you want to talk to in connection with this, do you think he is also a student?
We do indeed. The reason for this is this was a student night only at Tiger on this particular evening. Only students would have been there. We believe that he possibly lives somewhere in the Kilburn area, or is staying in the Kilburn area. The reason for that is because approximately half an hour after he left the premises, the card was used again in a cash machine. However, nothing was withdrawn at that time because the whole limit had been withdrawn.
Okay.
It was used again the following morning, around about 9:30, again in central London, in Haymarket. On that occasion, the card was kept by the bank.
Okay.
So we believe that he's probably a student who goes to a college or a university in London.
OK, well, thank you very much. Let's just have one more look at him now. And if you know who he is, please do call, because the numbers are there on the screen right now.
Now, Hampshire Police have a number of initiatives in place to deal with antisocial behaviour, and we were given unique access to a Friday night on patrol. And here's what happens.
It's Friday night on the south coast, and the weekend starts here. Everyone is getting ready for a night on the town as hundreds of revellers hit the streets, pubs and clubs.
It's going to be a busy night.
With its fair share of town and city centres popular with partygoers, Hampshire has developed a number of initiatives in order to patrol and protect the streets. Tonight we're out and about with two of them. In the centre of the naval town of Gosport, it's the police who are preparing to hit the streets. While in Portsmouth, we're going to be following street pastors. They're arming themselves with flip-flops and a prayer.
So if we can just gather together
It's a bank holiday weekend. The chances are we are going to be busy tonight.
Both groups aim to tackle drunken behaviour, but each takes a very different approach.
Heavenly Father, we just thank and praise you that we have this privilege this evening of going out. And I just pray for your protection upon us, Jesus.
Amen. We need to get in there, be seen, be robust, but be friendly, and let's get rid of the people that are likely to cause a problem before they do.
The night begins with the police and their answer to the problem, Operation Pub Watch.
We sat down with the licensees, the local agencies, the door staff, and said, together we need to tackle this, and that's exactly what we've done.
The aim of Pub Watch is to link together communications between doormen, the CCTV control room and police, so that they can immediately respond to drink-related incidents before they get out of hand.
We do have a unique system where we can talk to the CCTV via radio, via our own control. If an incident is reported and it's seen on CCTV can let us know, we can let our control room know.
And it's not long before the control room spots trouble brewing at a pub, and they alert officers on the ground.
We just had a call by our police control room that there seems to be an issue with a male down at the Waterfront Public House.
Somebody's hit him and I asked him to leave and he just wouldn't leave. So I've asked him to go several times.
There's two women here?
Him and the other one there.
Okay. Can I have a word with you?
Yeah, I could leave.
Yeah. You've been asked to leave the premises, I understand.
I've asked you to leave the premises 20 minutes ago. You're still out here arguing.
You actually want to ask me to leave?
Excuse me, sir. Can you listen to me? Can you just move over here? Because I can tell you're in drink and I don't want it to be any sort of confrontation. So just move over here.
I'm argumentative because we've all been out together and it's all turning into a situation that shouldn't be happening.
Okay. How much have you had to drink today?
Probably too much.
Too much, okay. Come and sit down with me. It'll be a lot easier, won't it?
The man in question is quickly issued with a Section 27. This means the police can order an individual to leave a designated area for a period of up to 48 hours. It seems to be working. This man is sent home. The police also visit pubs in the early part of the evening, not just to make drinkers aware of their presence, but to identify any potential troublemakers.
We just check the toilets really to make sure there's no drug taking happening. It's not particularly in this pub, but we do have a little bit of a problem in Gosport in relation to drugs, so we just like to make sure that nobody's in here taking something they shouldn't.
Whilst doing their patrols in town, Rob and Selina get an urgent call through on their radios. The man who was issued with a Section 27 order banning him from the town centre has returned to a nearby bar.
We've been reported that the chap that's been given a Section 27 earlier has somehow come back through an alleyway and managed to get into the Star Public House. So now, obviously, he's going to need to be arrested. Hello, mate. How's that? Yeah, and you? Very well, very well.
I'm in the back seat.
Oh, right.
You just got him. I think he got a drink off somebody. And
Really?
Yes.
What, pinched it or?
Pinched it, I think. We kicked him out earlier. We've been having a few earlier on.
Well, he won't be back again tonight, I can assure you.
We've been there.
How many times did I tell you not to come back?
I didn't come back. I walked home.
You came
No,
back
I didn't.
into an area I told you not to. I explained the situation to you, and you decided
Yes,
to
you did.
ignore. So this is
No,
what
yeah.
happens when people ignore.
I didn't ignore. I just thought I'd stop off for a beer before I went home.
This way. He's just been telling me what an idiot he is, and he didn't really think that he'd be arrested. He thought we were blowing hot air. I've just explained to him that there's eyes and ears everywhere, and we all communicate very well with each other, and nothing ever escapes anybody. So I think he's learned a very valuable lesson.
This was only the 11th time a Section 27 had been breached in Gosport. The man was later sent to court and found guilty of public disorder. Later that night in Gosport, Rob's patrol hand over to the night team.
Take him to the floor.
And in Portsmouth, the street pastors are giving revellers help of a different kind.
We're not a mini police force. We're basically here to assist people. Hi there! Do you want some flip-flops?
And I'm joined on the line by someone who's been on the receiving end of some serious antisocial behaviour, Darryl Edwards, and the officer in the case, DC Katie Holland. Darryl, good morning. Just quickly, what happened to you?
I was out down in Southsea at a bar and I was attacked by a gentleman with a glass in my face.
And we can see what this did. I warn everyone at home, this is quite graphic, but this is the result of you getting attacked. And it seems completely unprovoked, this, doesn't it?
Yeah, it actually was. I was actually just about to walk in to get a drink and he stepped out from behind a pillar and hit me across the face.
Absolutely brutal attack. Now, I know there was lots of people around, and that's why we've brought the officer in. Katie, you, the officer investigating, Katie Holland, you are appealing because you think there was lots of people around that must have seen what happened. So remind us when and where this took place.
Yeah, this took place on Sunday, the 11th of May. It was about 9 p.m. at the Clarence pub down in Southsea. It was a busy day, very sunny, and there were a lot of people around. So I'm just appealing for any witnesses to come forward. This was a very violent and unprovoked attack, and a lot of witnesses left. When the assault occurred, I'd like them to come forward with any information.
OK, well, thanks for that. We'll ensure that all those details get put on our website so you can have a look. And if you can help, we really would love to hear from you, seeing what it's done to him.
Now, thanks to your calls, 14 of the wanted faces that we've featured over the last month have now been rounded up. So here is the last lot. This is Declan Roddy. Police would like to speak to him about a fraud in which students, families and landlords were conned into paying deposits for properties that they never got. He's also wanted in connection with benefit fraud. Police believe that Roddy is living in the London area. Perhaps you have seen him. Number 6, police in Northumbria would like to speak to this man, Samuel Mitchell Robinson, in connection with an £11,000 fraud. Robinson is a chef who travels around the country and abroad. Do you know where he is? Number 7 is Michael Schilling, wanted by police in connection with conspiracy to supply Class A drugs from a site in Farningham in Kent. If you know where he is, call us. And number 8 is this man, 60-year-old George Houlihan. He's wanted in connection with 2 serious sexual assaults and has been on the run for a decade, having skipped bail. He's originally from Glasgow and worked as a travelling salesman. He's also believed to have lived in Nottingham and various other places in the northeast of England. If you have any information on any of these faces, do call us. The numbers are there on the screen now.
Now, back on the streets of Hampshire, it's getting late and police and the street pastors really have their work cut out. Here's what happened.
In Gosport, the police have been patrolling the streets for the past 4 hours, spotting troublemakers on the ground and reacting to information given to them by the CCTV control room. They've already arrested a man for breaching a public order charge.
He's just been telling me what an idiot he is, and he didn't really think that he'd be arrested.
But the police have eyes and ears everywhere thanks to Operation Pub Watch, a special relationship between the pub and club bouncers and the CCTV control room. It's 10 o'clock and Rob's team have now been replaced by the night shift.
We're dedicated to the high street, basically, just to keep control of things down here. So we've got 3 double crew units walking up and down the high street, just monitoring the pubs, making sure everyone behaves themselves.
And in neighbouring Portsmouth, they've also brought out the big guns. The drunken revellers have a helping hand of a different kind, the hand of God. Reverends, ministers and Christians aren't usually associated with drunken antisocial behaviour, but Mary is a minister in the Salvation Army Church in Southsea, and she's also part of the street pastors.
I'm a street pastor and a pastor in my church as an ordained minister, and although the word pastor is there, they're both different roles really. Street pastor, I'm out here to see if anyone needs help and to be here just to be here for them really.
We're basically here to assist people, particularly young women that are very vulnerable on the street. We do things, for example, take them to a taxi or locate their friends.
And every time they do help someone, events are recorded onto a dictaphone, just in case they need to hand information over to the police. It's not long before they meet a man who's had too much to drink. Val records what's happened.
Just spoke to a young white male, offered him some water. He said he was okay. He's having a bit of trouble focusing. He's planning to walk home, so we'll check on him a bit later when we walk down here, just make sure that he's got home all right.
And if they do need reinforcements, they also have the prayer pastors back at base.
A prayer pastor is someone or several people who are back here at base praying God's covering over the street pastors while they're out there on the street, that they'll be able to stay together, that they won't get involved in any fights in particular.
It's getting late into the evening and things are really hotting up. The street pastors have their work cut out in Portsmouth.
We have a flip-flop ministry because some of these girls, they can't walk in the high heels after they've been drinking, coming out of nightclubs. And there's a lot of glass around, broken glass, so it does stop them from cutting their feet. Hi there! Do you want some... No, do you want some flip-flops? Do you want some flip-flops? Yeah! Yeah? We got some, they're free. It's just save you cutting your feet and stuff.
Oh, lovely. You know, I've had heels on all night, you know, and they've really, really hurt me, and they've come along. It's like I'm thinking, I'm going to walk home all night with my sandals in my hand, and they give me flip-flops. Oh,
what do you get from wearing them like all night? Look.
But over in Gosport, the police have a drunken disturbance to deal with.
Take him to the floor.
This lady over here was refused entry by the bouncers. And this gentleman, I don't know if it's partner or friend, has got a bit upset by this and has pushed the bouncer. That was when the unit's called up for assistance. That's when we all got here, and it seems like he hasn't calmed down. He's kicked off a bit. He's been arrested for public order offences, and she's going to be given a Section 27 to leave.
The man arrested was charged and fined £250. There's a long night ahead for David and his team, but at least with the pub watch operation in place, the job will be made that little bit easier.
We'll be here till early hours of the morning now, basically till the clubs have closed, the kebab shop closes and everyone clears off. If it's fairly quiet, then we'll sort of leave and let CCTV monitor. CCTV can see most of the high street and they'll call us here if there are any problems.
It's a real privilege to be able to pray with people when they ask you to do that. Then, yeah, that does strengthen my faith, I suppose, and it gives me something to focus on as well. When I go home, I continue to pray for whoever I pray for tonight on the streets.
A more unusual way of getting to grips with antisocial behaviour. Now, all month on Crimewatch Roadshow, we have been asking for your help to solve crimes from all around the country. And here's a little reminder of some of the cases we featured.
Oh, we're ready, yeah? Danny, police!
Money! Money! Give us some money now!
Thieves made off with 20 of these paintball guns, 20 of these gas canisters, 2,200 rounds of orange paintballs.
There's cannabis in the ashtray.
The two blue-fronted Amazon parrots were called Smokey and Chalky. They both spoke and said hello, how are you doing, and made a great impression of a telephone.
I think it would appear that the lad who's kicked his way into the front door has no connection whatsoever to this address. He's had a lot to drink and has decided he wants to sleep in the house.
The first thing was running through my head was the baby's memorial box, and it'd been stolen. Not trash, it'd been stolen. Why steal stuff like that? That's all I cared about. Everything else was replaceable. I don't care.
And the last time I saw his face was when his bus was pulling out to go that way to take him to college. And that's the last time I saw him.
laptop, there was a stereo in there was an iPod. Those items weren't stolen. This seems to be a purely malicious act. I cannot understand why people do this.
He didn't just stand there threatening us, he came towards us, waving this bread knife at my face.
I heard the kind of roar of the engine behind me. I wasn't actually aware of it coming straight at me until I was hit. 3 people came over and continued to assault me by kicking me in the ribs, jumping on my chest, kicking me and punching me in the face.
I just heard 2 bangs, and for some reason I knew it was a gun.
There's a hydroponic setup with the water going through the tank there just behind the door, and then the plants are in the plastic containers on the bottom, which the water is going all the way through.
This bazooka was found, and it was stolen from the site.
They'd taken everything.
From street to street in Glenavon, slashing tyres. From the top of the town to the bottom of the town and all the way up to Ford Side. And I don't know how many tyres were slashed up there.
Take it to the floor.
Initially, the first thing going through my head was, oh, this is bad, and am I going to survive?
It's just a handful of our cases. Well, we do have some final updates for you on some of those. Thanks to your calls to the programme, 4 of our wanted faces are now in prison. A number of other wanted faces have also been arrested.
And following our appeal for the stolen paintball equipment in Harewood Forest near Andover, some of that equipment has been recovered and a man has been arrested. Police have also arrested a man in relation to that awful case of the 4-year-old girl bitten on the cheek by a dog in the park.
And a 43-year-old man gave himself up following our appeal to trace him in relation to a sexual assault. And if you see anything this morning that you can help with, please pick up the phone. The numbers are on your screen now.
We've had more than 1,500 calls throughout this month. Thank you to everyone who has called in with information. But that's all from Crimewatch Roadshow for this series.
But Crimewatch is back on Monday night at 9 o'clock on BBC One. So thank you for all your calls. They really have made a difference.
The lines will be open for the rest of the day. But from all of the team here on Crimewatch Roadshow, bye-bye. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
A former church is among the homes under the hammer. Next here on BBC One.